start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandrine Macé. I'm a professor at ESCP Business School. I am the scientific director of the IoT Chair in partnership with Schneider Electric. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome you for this event, IoT for Sustainability, an event organized by the IoT Chair. I'm very grateful to see many attendees, but I'm sure that some students will arrive in the next minutes. But also professionals, as we can see, from many, many different sectors. So a big thank you to all of you. For several years now, ESCP Business School has worked towards a more sustainable approach on many of its fields of action, including teaching, research, processes, governance. ESCP is targeting actually to have all of its students, which means 8,500 students from bachelor to MBA. So we target to have all our students to train on CSR and sustainability. And we have mandatory courses on sustainability, which is a key issue for us, just like for everyone, I guess, and hope so. Our mission as a business school aims at developing and sharing knowledge, practices for a sustainable business, creating a learning ecosystem, empowering change. Let me say a few words about the IoT Chair. It was born out of a desire to support students, companies, and professors, researchers in investigating and understanding the business and managerial issues related to the digital evolution and the development of connected objects. We carry out activities to produce and disseminate knowledge on the managerial challenges of the IoT, especially on how to create and deliver value and the different types of value in the IoT. Climate change is the challenge of our generation, and maybe your generation, you students, much more maybe than us. The next 10 years will be crucial. How the Internet of Things, the IoT, can contribute to reduce carbon emission and improve the environment. This is our topic today. With our guest speakers from leading companies in both IoT and sustainability, we will explore different ways to create sustainable value for customers, companies, and societies with IoT. Whether you are experienced professionals or students, this conference is designed to be a space of learning, sharing, and connecting. You will have opportunities to network with your peers during the break at 10:30, also during the buffet lunch at noon. So of course, we really want this conference to be very interactive, but each guest speakers will have 20 minutes, let's say, for his presentation. Please do not interrupt them. Take notes, of course, write down your question if you have any, and then during 10 minutes we'll have an interaction, sharing your question, and then sharing all together about this specific topic. So get ready to be inspired, and let's make this conference a truly unforgettable experience. Let's get started. In my lecture, in my introduction, so I will have a lecture, but it will be an introduction, of course, of this morning. What I would like to do, I would like to try to address this question: is IoT eco-friendly? And to sum up some of major issues at stake. So this is what I'm going to do in this short introduction. And then you will see that our guest speakers will cover, of course, these three key issues that I'm going to present now. First key issue for me, this is that we have to talk about sustainable IoT. That is to say, let me remind you in a few words, but I will take an example, and then we'll have many cases later with our speakers. Let me remind you what we call IoT. IoT refers to a vast network of interconnected devices capable of exchanging data and communicating with each other. Okay? In the heart of the IoT, we have, of course, in the system, we have a device, but we have several components. I will remind you later, and each component of this IoT chain value produce CO2 emissions. So sustainable IoT, the stake here, the challenge here that we have to address is first to assess the carbon footprint of an IoT solution itself, and then try to minimize this carbon footprint of this IoT solution. This is the first stake, and we will call it, sometimes we call it green IoT, sustainable IoT. Then we have a second one, IoT for sustainability. So if we have, let's say, a negative impact of this sustainable IoT, we will have a positive impact here with IoT for sustainability. What do we mean here? We mean that the IoT devices can help promote sustainable practices, minimize their environmental impact. In doing so, IoT devices contribute to reduce carbon emission and improve the environment. For example, let's take an example, but we will not discuss much this morning, so this is why I present this example. IoT can monitor water usage and detect, for example, leaks, reducing water wastage. So we have a balance, as you can see, between the first one, sustainable IoT, and the second one, IoT for sustainability, as I said before, with the first one with a negative impact on the environment, and the second one with a positive impact on the environment. And the question is, here, what is the net impact? What is the net effect? Do we have more benefits, hope so, than we have a negative one? This is a question that will be addressed by one of our speakers this morning, Marc from BearingPoint, because at BearingPoint they have developed a methodology and applied to several cases, which will be presented this morning, with several applications where they have tried to assess this balance between a green IoT, a sustainable IoT, and an IoT for sustainability. And third stake for me, of course, this is, as I said in my introduction of the chair, the IoT chair, this is value creation. We want to create value for all the stakeholders. I'm going to present now in the next minutes. So this is the three key issues for me at stake. Let me go further, maybe in the first one, second one, and third one, and then give the floor to our guest speakers for several applications. First stake. Remember, sustainable IoT. Let me take an example and remind you, so what we really call the IoT, and then we will have the general case. If we want to minimize the carbon emissions, first thing to do, this is to measure, to assess the carbon footprint all along the IoT chain value. That is to say, we have many components in the IoT chain, which means that we have to component by component, we have to assess their impact on the environment. So let's take this concrete example. We have here, for example, a e-health device, let's consider a remote real-time monitoring of a person's health. So as you can see, we have here an elderly person. This is the patient, for example. So we are in a medical application. As you can see, this elderly person wears different sensors which catch some data, physiological data, just like, I don't know, for example, the skin temperature, the blood oxygen saturation, the heart rate, and many other measure physiological data which can be collected with these sensors. And this data then are transmitted to the patient's smartphone, and then on the right side to the cloud database, where this data first is stored, filtering, cleansed, analyzed, processed, and at the end we have an action which will be the disease detection if there is a disease to detect in real time, because of course this is in real time, but we have this collect of data. With all this, then we have a connectivity once again and a message, which is an alert, which can be sent to a platform at a hospital, for example, a monitoring platform where we have several medical professionals who are there, and we will take early action if need be in case of emergency before maybe the situation gets worse, or prevent hospitalization if it's possible. So this is a chain. one here for a medical case, via IoT chain. So at each component, we have a production of gas, CO2 gas, which means that at each component, for each element, the objective for us, for sustainable IoT, the objective would be to try to reduce at each component this production, this gas emission. So in the general case, we have a device. Usually it looks like a box or something which is quite small. This is the wearable, for example, in this case, in the medical case. It can be, of course, your watch for those who have a connected watch, but it can be something else. So we have a device. Then we have some sensors in this box, in this device, and then the sensors capturing data. So we have the data then are analyzed with algorithm, AI, and so on, so as we can take some decisions. We have a network because we have a connectivity between all these components. And of course, as I said before, the idea of the IoT, this is this connectivity with everyone, actually. So it will be a connectivity with a human interface, for example, the smartphone in that case. And it can be a connectivity with other devices or other platforms. This is the case with the medical platform, for example. So you have here the chain, the IoT chain, with all the components. So it's simplified, and of course, in each case, for each case, we should, of course, try to find this and retrace this chain. But what my message is to say that what we should do is to try first to measure step by step, element by element, the emission of gas. What do we know? We will see the study by BearingPoint later. But what do we know? We know that the device actually is the dominant factor in the contributing mostly to the device lifetime carbon footprint. I don't know whether you know, we're going to take an example. I'm sorry, I have not found any numbers to give you a number at which level it does contribute to the carbon footprint and production of gas of emission. But if we take very simple example, it's not exactly IoT, but it looks like you have a device, you have a connectivity, you have data. This is, for example, your smartphone. What we know, we have the numbers there. We know that the device, as you can see, we have a difference between the manufacturing and the use. So the data, the algorithm, when you use your smartphone, for example, or your computer for navigating, browsing on different websites and so on, transferring data. What we know, as you can see, is that in the case of a smartphone, 85% of the carbon footprint comes from actually the device. Okay? So except for the data centers, for the servers, of course, where we have so much data processing, and then it's 25%, 75% for the use. But for in many cases, this is the device which contributes the most, which has the highest negative impact on the pollution and on the gas of emission. So what does it mean? It means, of course, in the case of the IoT, we have, as I said before, usually small boxes. They are small. The IoT are small solutions, small devices. So it means, if it's small, it means that their physical production requires fewer materials, less plastic or other materials, less e-waste, of course. But it remains that we have a device. We also have the sensors, and producing some sensors, it requires rare earth metals, very harmful. It can be very harmful for the environment. So it means that the lifespan of a device is a key parameter to lower the carbon footprint. Just like in your case, your smartphone, your personal smartphone, you should extend the life of your phone. It will be the same with the IoT when it's possible. So the end-of-life consideration should be also taken into account when designing the IoT devices. And when we design an IoT in the eco-conception of the IoT device, they should be designed for easy repair, upgrade possibilities, and recycling to minimize, once again, e-waste. We have data, we have algorithm. It means that the second very significant factor in terms of gas emission and negative impact on the environment, it will be the energy consumption of the IoT devices. So when devices are constantly connected to the internet, when they are constantly transferring data, of course, the energy consumption will be much higher. Data storage, data processing contribute to the carbon footprint. And we have here, I have a number that I can give you. This is provided by the International Energy Agency, which predicts that the IoT devices would account for 3.5% of global electricity demand by 2025, tomorrow, let's say. So what does it mean? Once again, in terms of eco-conception, IoT devices certainly should be designed to be energy efficient, with low power consumption, standby modes, and when it's possible, lower the frequency of the data collection. So instead of collecting information and data every, let's say, 5 seconds, maybe it can be every 5 minutes, it will be enough, or maybe once a day. It will have a strong impact, once again, on the reduction of the gas, or minimizing the data usage and selecting really the data that will be collected and not too many data. So this is what I wanted to say for this first stake. And once again, I think that we will have some application later with the other speakers. Second stake, remember, I will call it IoT for sustainability. Using IoT to create sustainable impact. And we have a lot of possibilities and opportunities and application. And so for the students from the master specializing in marketing, but for, of course, the other students from the master specializing in the big data, here you have a lot of possibilities, innovation, and new application. It's a marvelous period for you. So you can use IoT to create green impacts, save energy, reduce water consumption, cut pollutants, help protect biodiversity with smart buildings, smart agriculture, predictive maintenance. So you have a few applications here on the right side of the slide. But once again, we will have several applications later with the lighting, the smart cities, with the transportation, with the Schneider Electric, the energy and saving energy. If we consider the product's environmental impact through its lifespan, the life cycle conception that you have here on the left side, we see that we can plug and we can develop IoT solution at each stage of the life cycle eco-conception graph here, at each phase, and minimize the environmental impact of every application. Stake number 3, value creation. What I would like to say here is by designing and using IoT devices with sustainable practices in mind, we can reduce the impact of these devices, of course, on the environment and promote a more sustainable future. But sustainability is not just about protecting the environment, the planet. It's really a key issue, of course, but it's not just about protecting the environment. It's also about creating a future where people, the planet, and the companies, they can thrive together. This is this usual three-piece model with the planet, prosperity, business, economic, and social for people. So for the people, a sustainable world is a healthier world with a higher quality of life, with reduced pollution, a focus on clean energy, leading to a cleaner air, cleaner water, sustainable agriculture, promoting healthy food production. Everyone has access to clean water, sanitation, sustainable food production. This promotes social equity, reduces poverty, leading to a more just and peaceful world. We will see later some cases where IoT creates these social values for the people in a sustainable way. And for the companies, finally, sustainability, of course, is an opportunity to enhance prosperity, growth, for several reasons. First, it creates financial value because it's the possibility to develop new growth opportunities, meet customers' expectations, new innovation, and profitable innovation. Because sustainability encourages responsible resource management and reduces reliance on finite resources, it improves operational efficiencies. So it's a way also to create more profit for a company, so prosperity. And finally, sustainability also creates non-financial values, image, reputation, on which a company, of course, can build, maintain, or improve its corporate communication towards all the stakeholders, which can be, of course, the consumers, but also the employees, the banks, the investors, and so on, everyone, and attract, motivate, retain employees. So for my conclusion to this first, once again, introduction about the 3 stakes. So we have 3 stakes. Here you have a program, and as you can see, we have built this program so as all these stakes will be covered by each of our speakers. Accelerate energy savings in buildings and cities through efficient and connected lighting. It will be our next speaker, Marion Huertas from Signify. IoT for green, the net impact quantification, as I said before. Do we have a positive impact at the end with this sustainable IoT, but which is a negative impact, and the IoT for sustainability, which is a positive one? After the break, we will talk about, Thomas Ledoux will explain what they do at Michelin with the transport industry and how IoT can reduce the environmental impact of the transport industry. And finally, our last presentation, it will be Zoya Alexeeva from Schneider Electric, creating sustainable value for companies and customers with IoT, our third stake. So in this introduction, I wanted to highlight that with IoT we can track carbon emissions, cut down on trash, drastically reduce energy use by utilizing the power of IoT devices. So yes. No, it's not it's yes, and a big yes. I really believe that with IoT, we can address crucial problems such as climate change, environmental preservation, resource management. It's just the beginning of a new era, I'm sure. And you, once again, students, you will be really the actors of this new period and revolution. So IoT promises a brighter and more sustainable future. In the next presentation, our guest speakers will present some case studies and innovative applications. So I really want immediately to thank them all. It's really a great opportunity for us to have our guest speakers and these cases this morning and sharing with us your experiences in the IoT and sustainability. So a big thank you to our guest speakers. And let me give immediately the floor to our first speaker, so Mario. And thank you very much, and enjoy, of course, the conference. Thanks. Good. Vous avez besoin de quelque chose d'autre, ça va, Marie?
Non, c'est bon.
Voilà, vous avez la petite tapette s'il y a besoin ici.
Ok.
Super, merci beaucoup.
So good morning, everyone, and thanks a lot to Sandrine for her invitation to this event. I'm really glad to be here. So I'm Marion Huertas. I'm the Sustainability Manager for Signify in France. I will present a bit Signify because I'm not sure it's very well known from the public. So today we have an increasing urbanization in the world, and we have buildings that are representing one of the main contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. Globally, it's about 21% of the emissions in the world. So cities and buildings, they will play a role in decarbonizing our environment. So today, the idea is to focus on how we can accelerate energy savings in buildings and cities through efficient and connected lighting, because lighting is what we do at Signify. So Signify, today we are the global leader in lighting solutions. So we provide highly efficient products, systems, management systems, and lighting systems. So light sources, light bulb, for instance, luminaires that you can see, in offices, in the street, in industry, and also management systems of lighting. Maybe you know us better with the Philips brand. So Philips Lighting, it was previously Philips Lighting, and for 5 years ago, we changed our name of the holding, which is Signify, and we have different brands in our portfolio. So Philips is our product brand. We also have an IoT brand, which is Interact, and so Interact is communicating with the Philips lighting product. We have also other brands in the world, but these are the two main brands we have. So we are the number one today in LED and connected lighting. 15 years ago, we didn't do anything in IoT. It was halogen bulbs, fluorescent, sodium in the streets, and we completely changed the whole of our factories. We created new brands, and we are proud to remain in the game in LED and connected lighting. So it's almost 7 billion euros last year. And 55% of our turnover is for professionals, so B2B, and 25% for consumers. So we are present globally with 32,000 people in the company. Sustainability has long been in the strategy of previously Philips Lighting and now Signify. Together with innovation. So to give you a brief overview of our achievements so far. So we have long been working on reducing our carbon footprint in our operation, so productions, transportation, business trip, offices, and we have reduced them by 77% since 2010. And this year, last week, we published our report with the evaluation of our Scope 3 emissions, and we have diminished by 50% our greenhouse gas emissions in Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. On Scope 3, it's also helped by the fact that we are converting non-LED cells to LED cells that are much more efficient than conventional lighting. As other companies, we had targets on carbon emissions to be conform to the Paris Agreement. We had 12 years to achieve this target, and we will have done it next year, so in 6 years. So it's really a big effort that is put on this part. Our operation, they are 100 powered by renewable electricity, so either with solar panels in our factories or with a purchase agreement with companies, and we have zero waste to landfill. In terms of recognition, Carbon Disclosure Project is an association which is evaluating the level of transparency of environmental policy. So we are proud to be in the A-list climate of the CDP for the 7th year in a row. We are also Platinum EcoVadis, so the top 1% companies for their environmental policies. So if we go in the topic, and I see that there will be many topics that Sandrine talked about that we will also talk in this presentation. So why decarbonation of lighting is important for the energy transition? This is a graph from the International Energy Agency. So in the net zero scenario, the share of electricity will increase in the total final energy consumption. We will have more and more usage that will be electrified to replace fossil fuels. And so buildings, we will have more electricity used in buildings, in transportation, in industry. So 3 needs. We need to shift to low carbon sources, because if we produce electricity with coal, we won't have the results we want. We need to gain in efficiency. We have the same output of energy, but consuming less watts. But we also need for flexibility to accommodate electricity demand. Maybe we don't need this electricity demand for buildings at that time of the day, but we will need it for another use in the society. And this is where IoT will play a big role. And why lighting? Lighting is everywhere. If you have a human activity, you have lighting. At home, at schools, in the office, in the industry, in shops, you have lighting everywhere. And so it's important to decarbonize the lighting, but we will see how we can also use it for other usage through IoT to decarbonize. And switching to efficient and connected LED system is really easy to do in a building. You take your luminaire, you replace it, you can have energy gain immediately. And it's quite cost effective in the renovation project. So today, we know that 75% of the buildings, professional, residential, are energetically inefficient. A building lasts for a very long time, so in 2050, most of them will still be in use. And today we know that we need to triple the renovation rate of buildings if we want to be in line with our ambition of net zero. So there is not only lighting, but as I said, lighting is everywhere. If we take a building, a professional building, lighting accounts for about 20% of the electricity bills. And if we take public lighting, so lighting that you see in the street, 70% of public lighting in France is with old technology. So completely inefficient from an energetical point of view. So if you want to do energy saving and decarbonize, you can do two things. First, you can do efficiency. So you will use less energy for the same need. So here, it's more a choice of the product. So you will choose performing products that optimize the consumption, but also their number. Sometimes you have to install less luminaires for the same output. This can be done through LED. You have a building, you put it in LED, you will immediately save 40 to 60%. You could say, oh, it's good. In fact, we will see that we can reach 80% or sometimes 90% of energy saving through IoT. And this is the second pillar, which is sufficiency. Sometimes we call it sobriety, but I think sufficiency is the right word, where you will lose light only when and where and at the necessary level. And this is what we do with our IoT systems that we combine with lighting. So when you add connected lighting, when you add sensors, detection, light management, energy saving, they can very easily increase to 80%. In street lighting, it's often more than 90%. We estimate that we have 300 million of light points in France that should be renovated. We estimate that it should save more than 18 terawatt-hours of electricity. The idea is that, as we saw that electrification will need more energy, lighting can save some energy that will be used by other applications, charging cars, lighting your homes, electrified heating, for instance. And we estimate that, for instance, it would be the need to charge 15% of the park of cars, electric cars in France. So we really see, and this is the scenario where we put connectivity. It would be lower, as I said, maybe half of it, if we would just change to LED. So, as Sandrine said, if you want to optimize your energy saving, you need to understand and monitor your consumption. And this is what we do when we connect our products with our IoT system. So we have sensors, and then we have dashboard, and you can know in a room, in a city, this is a map of a city, you can see precisely where you are using your energy, what is the level of consumption, see what's the variation within the week, and you can do it in the city. You can monitor multi-sites if you have various shops or high schools in a region, and you can see immediately what you are consuming at what moment. But then the idea is to create scenario to only light when, where, and at the level needed. And I choose projects that were not like big iconic project, because IoT is not only for big cities or big buildings. It can be done everywhere. So Talence is a city next to Bordeaux. They renovate the entire, they were the first city in the world to use this system, more than almost 4,000 luminaires connected. They immediately made 80% of energy saving. So they define zone, they define scenarios. Friday is not the same level as Wednesday or as Sunday. And they can completely parameter, and if needed, they can change it if there is an event which was not planned. I also took an example of last year. When there had been the energy crisis, Perifem, it's the Technical Federation of Retailers, they met the government with a campaign that was called Chaque Geste Compte, if you remember. And they signed a sobriety protocol with the French government where they committed to do -7% in energy consumption in 2022. And it was heating, but also lighting. So they lowered 50% before the opening of the shops for people that were putting the food in the shops. And then 30% during this tense period for people when the shop was opened. It was much easier for shops that were equipped with connectivity and LED connected system to put that in place. And the results, it was -10%. So it had really a big impact. And then I took also a public library, so it's in Belgium, 80% of energy reduction. So we see that we can have the same result in a building and in a city. The investment was only financed through energy reduction, so they made no investment at the beginning. And they also choose products that we can reuse in a circular approach at the end of life of the product. So we see that we can also have other approaches of sustainability combined with IoT. Here is the city of Caen. So we have lighting, and they only light when the cycle or the people is going under the public lighting. So here we have 90% of energy saving. We preserve the feeling of security for people that are not completely in the dark, because it has been a big debate in France last year. Should we shut off the public lighting or not? But it also preserves the night sky, and you talk about biodiversity. Light pollution is also a topic. So we reduce considerably the light level when it's not needed, and this is also sufficiency. And here we see that, okay, you can just turn off the light, you will reach the energy saving maybe of 45%. When we add sensors, management, and we adapt, on the city we are 92% of energy saving. But what I wanted to bring also is that IoT, it can bring energy saving, but it can also benefit beyond light and energy saving. And we talked about quality of life, for instance. This is also something we can do through connected lighting. So I took the example of a school. When you have in place the structure of the IoT system, you can adapt light to what we call circadian rhythm, so your internal biological system throughout the day. And we see that it has really improved the well-being of people inside. So for instance, so it follows the temperature of color of sun. So in the morning, it's more warm. In the middle of the day, it's a very cold or a white color, and at the end of the day, sunset. So again, a warmer light. And this is what we do in buildings, and so we adapt, and the luminaire will change over the day. And if we take the example in schools, so we have made studies in different schools with psychomotricity test, with grammar, mathematics test, and we see that when you put the focus scenario during an exam, it will, and you compare two classrooms, you will have more mistakes in one room, less in the other. If at the end of the day, the teacher will put the warmer, so the relaxed scenario for the kids, we see that it reduces also hyperactivity. And so just to say that it's not only for big cities, we are installing it in a village near Lyon. The teacher is super happy, and she can play also at the end of the day with that. It can also improve the quality of life and security in cities, and this is also part of a more sustainable world. Because as lighting is everywhere, you can put sensors and you can catch data that are not directly linked to lighting, but you can use it for other usages. So for instance, you can have predictive maintenance, so you are sure that there is no problem of security. You can have captors to know if your street lighting is not perfectly installed, so you can say maybe there has been an accident and there is a risk of security for people in the streets. You can also measure noise, temperature, and then the data will give you scenarios, and maybe you will identify better urban heat islands effect, and the city maybe will choose to invest priority in this district because there is more problems here than another. You can then take decision on the noise, circulation maybe, also based on this data. So it's not directly to manage lighting, but we use the lighting infrastructure to give information of other usages in the cities. You can also, in offices, do space and environmental analysis. So you can measure temperature, humidity, COV, CO2, noise, the meeting room occupation, the area usage. So you can make your building healthier for people that are working in it. You can manage occupancy. So here you can imagine you have a big open space. You can explain where you have an office available, or you can optimize the space use. With home office, we know that some offices do not need that much spaces, and you can also interconnect it with the other management system of the building. And also, another example of what we can do also in improving well-being and not only energy saving for a more sustainable world. I don't know if you have seen, but you have more and more supermarkets that propose silent hours for autistic people in France. So they reduce the sound and light level in the shops. For some it's 1 hour in the day, some it's 4 hours in the day, so they choose. And autistic people that are not at ease in a noisy and a very bright environment, they can go and do their shopping at this moment. And this is also much easier to do when you have connected your sound and your light. You can program it, you can change it if needed. And so IoT, it allows to create and to adapt very easily the scenario you want to do. And so the idea was to show you that in the first place, people, they put IoT to do energy savings. But very often they stop at the efficient part, just LED. They are missing half of the energy saving they could make. And the idea is also to show that you can maximize your energy saving, but it's not, you can have also other benefits on health, well-being, security, for also a more inclusive environment, which is also part of sustainability. Thanks. Don't know if you have questions or...
First of all, thank you for your presentation. It was really interesting. So my question was about the case in the schools that you mentioned, and like, is it more energy consuming to use those adapting lightings and with different range of lightings than, for example, just having conventional lighting with LED?
So yes, it's consuming a bit more, but then it's also a compromise. So we only propose it in the most efficient range we have. So even the circadian lighting light we propose, they are more efficient than the basic non-connected product. So then it's a compromise, and maybe you won't need this proposition everywhere in the school. Maybe you can take it only in the classrooms, but in the canteen or I don't know, in another part of the building, you can choose the most efficient without this management lighting system, just a more simple one, I mean. And then it's also a balance between the usage, the benefits you are looking for people, and the level of efficiency. Because sometimes if you would choose the more efficient version, you would choose everywhere very cold light and you would never sleep at night.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation, very opening many doors. I'm an affiliate professor in entrepreneurship at the ESCP. My question is coming back to the measurement. Have you planned to ship your products with a common emission factor attached to it, meaning that this bulb has a common emission factor of this, etc., so that everybody at the end can include that in their procurement, sustainability P&L and everything?
So the big topic with in the moment is the life cycle analysis and the EPDs. So we are already covering, I think, 80% of our products, and I think by the end of this month or next month we will have 100% EPDs on our products. And just to come back to Sandrine said, in lighting we have a specificity. The use phase of product is 95% average. So clearly the topic is on reducing the consumption of product all over the use phase.
Any other questions now? So thank you again. This is a very good example, of course, for the example of lighting, but the value, delivering value, as you have seen, delivering value for the planet, of course, but also you enhanced emphasized these examples about the well-being, so as we said before, the social values, and of course, value for the company, I guess, but this is for you a lot of new innovation. Maybe you said it, I don't remember at the beginning of your presentation, but your growth rate, which must be quite good, I guess. You are in a very good sector, of course. And finally, what I wanted maybe to say, or it's maybe a question or not, but for the students, what we see, and with this example of a school, which is very interesting, we see, and this is what we usually say also for the IoT projects, we have to have teams with many different backgrounds, which is a difficulty, of course, because you have some people from, of course, the sensors, specializing in the sensors, the data, and then, of course, people about the innovation and about the value proposition. And there, you also have, I guess, some people specializing in the education and the rhythm and for the children. So that's very, well, once again, very interesting and very insightful, because it means that we have a lot of possibilities with this connectivity and all these people working together. But it must be also a difficulty, I guess, to have all these people with this different background working together. And maybe just one question would be, do you, now this is an example where you use the data for, let's say, for you in your system, but do you also have open the system or the data, or do you share some of the data with other companies which collect other data, and you work together and you have a connectivity, a very big one, with other companies, or not yet?
So we only use open protocols, and so I'm not the expert in IT, but I know that if you develop APIs or backnet, or yes, you can talk with the building management systems and connect to heating, charging cars. So yes.
Okay, but not yet.
But I could not explain you how.
Okay, but not yet developing new solution with partners from other companies, but where you would have a complementary...
It's possible. We do it already, but we need someone to write the program to It's open protocol, so it's not a problem, but we need to write the API, or I'm not the expert in the IT terms, but yes, it's possible, and we are already doing it.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll have another question later about the paper use, but thanks again. Thanks. So next speakers about the quantification, remember, the net impact. So it will be Marc from, yes please, come. Let me find your presentation, which must be this one, if I remember well. Oui, je pense que c'est la bonne. Il y a un slide qui permet de le vérifier, mais j'en suis quasiment sûre.
Comment?
Oui, j'ai marqué, voilà, final present. Donc ça doit être, ça doit être ça. Hop, voilà. Je vous laisse vous installer. Vous avez la petite zapette, puis le micro. Et voilà.
Hello everyone. Thank you for being here today. And I'm glad to present you our study about IoT for green net impact quantification. Before deep diving into the presentation, let me quickly introduce myself. So I'm Marc. I work for BearingPoint. I'm a manager into the IoT, Telecoms, and new tech teams. So today, I'm going to take like 5 minutes, not more, to present BearingPoint, and after, we'll deep dive into our IoT study. So our company is an independent consulting firm founded in 2009. Globally, we have what you have to remember is that we have more than 5,000 employees all over the world, especially in Europe, and more than 1,000 in France. And also that we would like to have an impact, and we want to be a responsible consulting firm. And this is why I think what is quite new is that every employee has financial incentive about CSR criteria. And globally, we address different kinds of segments, of industry segments, and all the service lines. So on my side, I work in the communication, media, and entertainment, but you see that we cover the whole industry segment with automotive, chemicals, life science, and resources, insurance, and so on. And about service line, we work for the different jobs into a company, so customer and growth, finance and risk, and so on. Just to position BearingPoint into the consulting marketplace, we have upstream the strategy consulting firm that are doing like globally the strategy of the companies, and we are a bit after just to activate this strategy. What we can note also is that in 2021, we acquired iCare. This is a consulting firm specialized in environmental topics. So it's about 100 consultants. And it allows us now, with the strengths of BearingPoint and the strengths of iCare, to propose an holistic approach to our clients in order to transform them, to have an economical impact, of course, but also have an impact on the planet and the society. And thanks to iCare, they help us to do our study, giving us methodology, giving us data, and giving us information about the life cycle of an IoT. But to do our study, we have the green part, but also the IoT one. So this is why we have founded in 2018 the IoT Business Hub. This is a think tank that has the objective to gather different actors of IoT. So the suppliers and also the users of IoT solutions. We have the large groups in different sectors, our natural clients, so the companies that we know the best, but also we want them meet the pure players and startup about IoT, because these pure players want to go deeper into the market, and I think it's a great meet between large groups and pure players and startups, and we are in the middle. This is our objective. But with this IoT Business Hub, we don't do only gathering people, but also we want to be a voice on IoT, and this is why we publish content, and every year we publish a white paper on hot topics in IoT. Because thanks to all the companies we know, we have real data, ground data, coming from real IoT projects, and this is how we try to modelize our white paper. So in 2023, a few months before the Olympic Games, the hot topics was, of course, sport and how IoT can help and can have their role on the sport tech industry. But in 2022, we published a white paper about IoT for green. And this is what I will present you today, at least a part of it. So you have a QR code if you want to look at the different white papers we have, but I will also put this QR code at the end, so don't worry if you don't have the time to scan it. So what was the beginning of our study? When we look at IoT projects, the first thing that came to our mind is that 60% of IoT projects do not quantify their environmental benefits. They quantify like their OPEX gains, their capacity to propose new services or better services to their clients. But in fact, they don't really look at, for most of them, the environmental impact, either it is benefit or cost. Of course, it depends on the kind of project we analyze. For example, if we look at the project in energy efficiency, you see that more than 60% are at least estimated it or measured the environmental impact. But globally, 60% of them don't. But when we say that OPEX gains, we can think that maybe there are also environmental gains, gross environmental gains. And our study was to check that and also to see if these gross environmental gains were also net environmental benefits. So how did we do for this study? First, we didn't want to take use cases that are not important, that a bit useless in terms of greenhouse gases emissions. So we look at all the sectors of greenhouse gases mix influence, so domestic transport, use of residential, commercial, buildings and activities, and so on. And with this mix, we selected 7 use cases, so that are quite important to have a beneficial impact on the environment. And this is the 7 use cases we study. So food logistics, agriculture irrigation, tertiary lighting, street lighting, residential electricity consumption, car sharing, and water transport and distribution. And today, conscious of time, we will focus on 3 of them: food logistics, tertiary lighting, and water transport and distribution. You see, what was important for us was not to do this exercise, this white paper, on our own. So we decided to rely on partners. And for example, you can see that for tertiary lighting, we have a partnership with Signify. So we did the study with them. So I hope I won't say something different that you said just before. So each time we rely on real data coming from a real project from our partners in order that they challenge us and also that we have reliable results at the end. And also I would like to say thanks especially our transverse partner, Mavana, that is also a specialized consulting company into CSR topics. Let's introduce a bit more our methodology. So as I said, we didn't want to do something that is not based on real data. So this is why we took field data from our partners. And the other thing that we saw when we look at different IoT green studies is that we often see more the gross impact, but they don't take into account also the cost of IoT, the environmental cost of IoT. So this is why we would like to have, on one side, the avoided emissions. So for instance, reducing the travel, to have better quality installation, to be able to reduce food waste, but also the emissions due to IoT. And this is where we took the life cycle of an IoT, going from the construction of hardware, the energy cost of its use, and at the end, the impact of the recycling. So thanks to that, we had a net environmental gain But to have a more important picture, to have more perspective, we would like to extrapolate it at national scale. Of course, the exercise is not perfect. There are some limits because it's quite impossible to extrapolate from one project to national scale. There will be loss during the extrapolation. But for us, it was quite important to do that, and I think it gives great orders of magnitude. So as I said, on one side we study the avoided emissions, and on the others the emissions of the IoT. So in green you can see when there are positive impact. This is only an example. I will detail it after. And in red, where it is a cost. And you can see that conscious of time, because of course we have a limited time to do this study, and also conscious of the data we can gather thanks to our partners. We can't study sometimes the whole chain of the IoT, the whole impact, either is it positive or negative. So we decided to focus on, for example, in this example, on chicken meat transportation and chicken meat storage and distribution. But for instance, we didn't take into account the positive impact of IoT in terms of chicken meat production. So now I hope our methodology is clear, and I will deep dive into the results, into the use cases we study. So first, the agri-food logistic use case. Why did we choose this use case? Because we saw that 8% of global greenhouse gases emissions in France are attributed to livestock farming. This is more than 5 million tons of meat that are produced each year in France. So of course, there are different ways to reduce these emissions. For example, we can reduce our meat. We can reduce the fact we eat meat or stop it. But for that, IoT can't really help. So this is why we focus on something IoT can help. It's about the losses during the life cycle of the meat production. So to be a bit more concrete, we took only the production of chicken. It is our case. So we see it represents 20% of the meat produced in France each year. And in this 20% of chicken production, more than 21% is lost during the life cycle of the chicken production. So now we said that what is the chicken supply chain in France? So you can see it goes from production and processing to consumption. Once again, we decided to left apart consumption because here it's more a personal behavior and IoT can't really help. And we decided to focus to transport and distribution, the transport and distribution part, as this is where we had the more reliable data coming from our partners, Covea and Mogix. So you have already seen this slide, but you can see that we didn't take into account the positive impact in breeding and processing of chicken meat. But on the other side, we didn't take into account the costs on power supply of IoT sensors, sending and processing information to the cloud, or power supply of cloud servers. This is not that we didn't want to do the exercise globally, but once again, there are limits in time, there are limits in data, and we would be glad to continue the study with a company or with students if you want to. And now, what are the results? So, on the first part, on the distribution, on the transport part with Covea, has their solution. They're putting some IoT sensors into truck, and they give like real-time data to the driver in order to know if the cold chain is broken or not. So, if the cold chain is broken, the driver can immediately react and make the most he can do to not lose all the chicken into the transportation. And you see that the results are good, with 80% of losses that can be avoided during transport. And with Mogix, on the distribution part, they are doing RFID solution in order that we manage well the stock of chicken. not only chicken, but in our case, chicken, in order to avoid losses because we overpass the date of eating. And you see 97 of losses are avoided during distribution. So now we decided to do the work to extrapolate this at national scale. Once again, I know there are limits, and in real life, we would never be able to reach the maximum benefits of that. But if we do the exercise, we see that we have a real impact, a real environmental impact, with 40% of losses avoided on the production chain of chicken. And if we extrapolate that at all the amount of meat produced in France each year, it would reduce by 2%. Now, as I said in the methodology, we have the gains, but we would like also to be sure that with the cost of IoT, this is positive. And you see, we have an environmental return on investment that is quite important for this use case. A spoiler, it will be the most important ROI of our presentation. So with a ratio of 900 for 1. And we can explain that quite easily because the solution is not really cost-consuming. It's only IoT sensor, for example, put in a truck. And on the other side, the production of meat, the production of chicken, is quite demanding in terms of CO2 emissions. So now the second use case we did with Signify. First, we saw that nearly 500 terawatt-hours of electricity are consumed each year in France. And we decided to narrow a bit our study. We took only the lighting that represent 10% of the electricity consumed each year. And we focused a bit more on office lighting, 12% of the whole lighting. Why did we do that? It's because we saw two figures that came to mind. The first one is that with the COVID, I think you know now the offices are not used as much as they was in the past, and the occupancy rate is only at 60% now. And another figure is that 70% of the lighting in offices are done during the day. So we would like to know if there are solutions to do better. And with Signify and Osram, we did the study and on office building to see LED lights and sensors for adjusting light intensity and the restricted emission solutions. If we look at our consequence tree on this use case, we see that it's quite easier, and we have more data, so we can take all the reduction of electricity consumption on one side, and on the other side, the manufacturing of IoT solution components and the distribution of IoT solution components. And now the results. So what we see with our partners is that we can avoid from 20, so this is a fork, from 20 to 50% of kilowatt-hour for office lighting. And if we extrapolate this specific project to at national scale, we can have a significant impact on CO2 equivalent emission reduction because we can avoid 20% of the CO2 equivalent emissions. And at national scales, for France, it would be up to 1% of the French annual lighting-related electricity consumption. And then, now the net environmental gain. What you see, when we compare it to chicken production, the net environmental gain is a bit less important, but yet it is still positive with a ratio of 10:1. We can explain that because we can explain this result a bit less important than for the chicken meat production because the IoT solution will be most costly in terms of environment to implement. And now, our last use case, water transport and distribution. Some key figures. First, 5.5 billion cubic meters water are distributed per year in France. And 20% of it is drinkable water. And once again, we are a part that is lost during the water transport and distribution chain. 21% is lost. To have an idea, we are in an Olympic year. It represents like 400,000 Olympic swimming pools with water lost each year. So that's huge. So what was our scope of study? So we're looking at all the water transport and distribution chain. So first we have the treatment and transformation of water, but for that we didn't have any data because we worked with our partner Birds, Robo and Vertical M2M, and they had more data on the transportation of water in public pipelines and also the water consumption in industrial, tertiary, and residential buildings. So you see our consequence tree. On the green side, on the benefit side, we look at the reduced water consumption. So all the leaks that have been prevented thanks to IoT sensors on public pipelines and pipeworks. But we didn't take into account the trips avoided for maintenance and so on. And on the other side, you see we took into account the sensor production, the sensor recycling, and also the usage, so the use of the LoRaWAN network. But once again, we didn't take into account the installation of the solution. So each time we didn't take into account all this is related to travel. So we can think that it's quite natural, not taking into account on one side trips avoided, and on the other side, the installation of the solution. When we look at our results, for industrial buildings and tertiary buildings, we did with our partner Robo, the raw gain in cubic meters is about 20%. And the raw gains for the residential households is 17.5%. So this is quite the same figures. And you see, if we extrapolate that at a national scale, and if we sum up all the water consumption avoided, all the water losses, we would reach to nearly 4% of the water consumed in each year in France that would be avoided. And when we look at the net environmental performance, what is interesting is to see that the performances are different depending if you are looking at the industrial or tertiary buildings on one side and the residential households on the other side. For tertiary and industrial buildings, the net gain is between 12 and 15. The ratio is between 12 and 15 for 1. But for the residential households, it's only 3 for 1. We have this difference because the more upstream you are in the value chain, the larger water you take into account. So this is why we have better net environmental gain for tertiary and industrial buildings, and for residential buildings, of course, you have to put a lot more IoT sensors to have significant impact on the water reduction. Here we talk about water reduction in terms of CO2 equivalent, but of course there are a lot of topics about water, and we know that a lot of regions in the world are struggling with water, so this use case is a bit overpassing only the environmental CO2 equivalent gain. So now I've presented 3 main IoT use cases we study, and if you have to remember 3 things about this presentation. The first thing is that on specific use cases, IoT can have positive environmental impact. We proved it with our study. We don't say that IoT has always a positive impact. Sometimes we must do the calculation, we must do the study. Sometimes maybe it's most costly to put IoT on solutions because the results, the positive impact won't be really important. But in some of the cases, we can say that it has a positive environmental impact. The second takeaway is that with this study, we focused on the CO2 equivalent emissions. But when we talk about environment, of course, it goes far beyond, and we could have done, or we could do in the future, a study about the impact of biodiversity. And once again, if someone wants to work with us to do this study, to go larger with this study, we would be glad to do that with you. And the last thing is about the methodology we used. As I said at the beginning, for us it was really important to do like the work to have on one side the positive impact and on the other side the cost, the environmental cost of IoT, and to think at the end with net gains and not with gross gains. So thank you very much for listening. I hope it was interesting for you. I hope you learned one or two things. And if you want to read the whole our whole white paper, you can scan our QR code or go to the link I put in the slide, and you will have more information about the other use cases and also about the other publications we have done.
Thank you very much. Thanks. So for the white papers, you have one in French, one in English, and it's not exactly the same actually. You have some differences between the English version and the French version. So if you read French, download both. You will see it will be different and very interesting. Thank you. Do we have any questions in the room, in the auditorium? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. I was particularly intrigued about the water consumption. I wasn't quite sure whether it was only about reducing consumption or also detecting leaks, for example, which seems to be a big issue. I think yesterday even there was a documentary about the leaks that contribute to a big loss of water. Do you also work on that?
Yeah, it's more about leaks, because thanks to IoT solutions, thanks to IoT sensors, we can put the more upstream in public pipelines and downstream into the residential households. We can have information about the leaks, and we can send people to repair these leaks quite easily. And as I said, the more upstream you take the leaks, the more important results you have at the end.
Another question or something else? Maybe some. Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting to have all this insight about GHG emissions, but my question was more about resources. I imagine that we need some resources to make the hardware and the sensors.
Yeah.
To what extent is it scalable at a national or global scale?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, we insist of net gains, so taking into account the cost of IoT. But of course, it works for one or some of IoT projects. But when we want to extend at national scale, for us, the exercise was more was not. We know that we can't extrapolate at 100% at national scale, because there are a lot of other information to take into account, and the resources are one of the topics. So we know it's not possible, but we thought it was quite interesting intellectually to have these orders of magnitude, to think about what are the best use cases where we can put IoT, and what are the use cases that are the more scalable, in fact.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Question there.
If I can just add to that,
Yeah.
In terms of scalability, what is the operational overhead involved for implementing these solutions? Because you have to have people to monitor, to interpret that data, and those are resources difficult to find. And if you look, Internet of Things has underperformed in general, over the last 15 years, every time there were, projections of what that market would represent, it always underperformed. So I think the devil is in the detail and how you implement it operationally. So how do you see that, and where do you think there are easy wins as opposed to more complexity involved?
First thing is that globally, for our hypothesis, we try to be quite conservative. When I talk, for example, about the lighting, we took only the assumption that we replace LED technologies to IoT LED technologies, and that we don't replace everything. For example, we don't replace like the old bulbs to connected LED bulbs. So this is why we try to focus only on use cases that have a real net positive impact. But we know that globally it's not working. Globally, it's not working for all the cases, and that we have to make the calculation, in fact, to be sure that it works for the use case we are studying.
Yeah, we are just at the beginning, actually, of this type of calculation. And as you said, it's not perfect, of course, but this is the first, certainly a benchmark and the first step to be improved in the next month, in the next year. So, as you said, if we have some students who would like to work on it, I'm sure that you can do. We really need metrics and some calculation, new method. And when we think about scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 constraints on compliance, actually, if we cannot have this kind of method and global method, it will not be possible actually to reach the objectives that we are expected. Companies and everyone are expected to achieve. Once again, this is just the beginning. I had a question about, you said that's true, but in many cases you saw that you have a positive impact. Is it the reason maybe is that maybe we are just at the beginning actually, and if we implement a new solution, we have such loss, waste, that of course if we implement something, the return on investment, and maybe this is your kind of metric there, it will be efficient, it will be effective at the end, and maybe I hope so in 2 years, in 3 years, maybe in 10, or I don't know when, but we will reach just like the optimum, and then of course then it will be the balance. But now, as we are just at the beginning, I guess that we still are very positive. Yeah, and of course in our use cases we compare no IoT with an IoT solution, and maybe in the future it will be the comparison between an old IoT solution with a new IoT solution, and in fact we won't have this kind of results. Yeah. And about this metric, if we can go back to the previous slide, please. No, yes, there on the right. Yes, you call it the net environmental gain. Yes, it's like it's your own, it's yours. You created this measure, or this is a measure that we can find somewhere else when we calculate the return on investment with the environment cost, and then kind of return on investment, and then this multiplication, this ratio. This is our own calculation, so you can have it the details into the white paper. And but this is your metric. It's not a usual metric. This is a metric that you decided to calculate, and you thought it was good. Okay. It's our metrics. Good. Yeah, interesting. I think okay. And what else I wanted to say? No, that's all. I really wanted to highlight again the need of this calculation and this approach. So if we have any other questions, additional questions. Thank you again. Thank you to our thank you very much speakers this morning. So we have a break now. We have 30 minutes if you want to have a coffee and so whatever you want. So at the entrance we have a place where you can drink something, and we resume. So we have a conference at 11 with 2 guest speakers. Remember. So see you at 11. Thank you very much. Okay, very good. So it's 11 sharp. So thank you very much to be there. So for our next presentation, we will have Thomas Ledoux from Michelin, how IoT can reduce the environmental impact of the transport industry. Thank you very much, Thomas. I give you the floor. Merci.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to start with this presentation by just talking with one slide about Michelin. I suppose you all know Michelin. We are selling tires, but not only. We have a strategy today with 3 pillars, developing our revenue around tire and beyond tires. Tires remain the core part of our revenue today, $28 billion last year. And we have invested recently, in the past 10 years, in services for fleets. So we are working with our customers to improve their operations, to improve their productivity, to decrease their environmental impact, and to work on safety with them. And this is the subject of today. I will talk about that during my presentation today, and especially about tire as a service. And we have the Beyond Tire pillar, in which we are leveraging our know-how in material design, high-tech materials, globally speaking, with new avenues of business, very far from the tire, but based on our know-how on high-tech materials. So you have 3D metal printing, medical applications. We are working also on fuel cells, developing specific membranes. So very, very different applications, very far from the tire, but based on the same know-how. So, and just to say one word about me, I'm the CTO of the around tire part, I would say. I have launched 10 years ago, relaunched 10 years ago, the idea of developing applications around electronic data algorithms in the company. We're creating teams from scratch and developing IoT solutions. And this is one application of my team that I will explain today. So tire performances, I'm sorry, but we have to start by understanding what is a tire and how it works. And you know, this is a risk you take when you invite a CTO, you have the engineering minute. So a good tire is about safety, durability, and fuel economy. So I'm nearly sure that safety and durability is quite clear for you. You need grip, and you want your tire to last as much as possible, not to change it every month. But fuel economy very probably is not so obvious. So I'm going to do a little demo. I have here 2 balls of rubber, identical, black, same size. They are the same. In fact, they are not. I'm going to show you. Look. What you have seen is the effect of viscoelasticity. The viscoelasticity is a property of the material to turn mechanical movement and energy into heat. So one of these balls was not able to rebound. The energy was translated into heat within the rubber ball. Okay? And this is exactly what happens with a tire. So you love viscoelasticity. You love viscoelasticity because this is because of viscoelasticity that you have safety and grip. This is because of viscoelasticity that you are able to drive fast in big curves. But viscoelasticity is also our worst nightmare, because this is because of viscoelasticity that a tire is becoming heater and heater when you are driving. And this heat is coming from your fuel. So you are turning energy, fuel energy, into heat in your tires. And this energy is lost. This is just heat in your tires. Another key point is that it's very, very difficult to have a very good level of durability while decreasing this impact on fuel economy. So you have a trade-off. When you design a tire, you are working on this trade-off. You want a very high level of grip with a very low level of the so-called rolling resistance, because you do not want to burn fuel for nothing. And in the same time, you want a very high level of durability, but it's also opposed to fuel economy. Okay? Is that clear? So this is in the heart of my presentation. Durability is about design quality. For sure, we can have good engineers designing very good tires. But it's also the fact that you use your tire till their real end of life. It seems obvious, but in fact, it's not done today. In passenger car in Europe, the mean value to dismount a tire is 3 millimeters remaining tread depth, when you could go to 1.6. And the effect, if I just take that example, is 6.6 million tons of gray CO2 emitted because you are removing tires that you could use and you are just using new tires that you don't need. In heavy truck, and it will be in the center of the presentation, it's 5 millimeters. A tread depth of a truck tire is about 14 to 15 millimeters deep. So when you remove your tires at 5 millimeters, that means that you take 30% of your investment and you put it in a bin. And this is what happens every day in Europe and everywhere in the world, in fact, for very good reasons. Because our customers have a difficulty to identify the right moment to dismount the tire, and they want to be compliant. And they are afraid they could be not compliant because a truck is made not to stay at the fleet location. A truck is made to be used, not to be here, and they want to be sure they are compliant. So when they reach 4 to 5 millimeters, they remove it. By doing that, we are creating waste. Another key point is about tire rolling resistance, just as I explained just before. In passenger car, it's 20% of your fuel that is just turned into heat. 20%. When you put 100 euros in your car with fuel, it's 20 euros just to make heat in your tires. We decreased that level of tire rolling resistance mean value by 2 in the past 30 years, just by effect of tire design. And then, when you are working, delivering services for fleets, in fact, what you can do, if you want to improve that, is just select the right tire. Because you have different dimensions and type of tires. Some are made for a better mileage performance, some others are made for a better rolling resistance performance. So the first thing that you can do is just select the right tire for the right usage, and if you want to save fuel, you can select a low rolling resistance tire. The second thing that you can do is to work on the tire tread thickness. If I had taken a smaller ball, I would have generated less heat. When your tread thickness is lower, because you are worn, you generate less heat. Your rolling resistance is lower. So you have an interest, an economical and sustainable interest, to use your tire till the real end of life to generate less CO2 emission and to consume less fuel. And the last thing that you can do is to monitor your pressure, because a tire is designed for a given pressure, and this given pressure is adapted to the lower rolling resistance. And this given pressure is also adapted to good usage and a good behavior from the wear point of view, for the wear performance. And this is in the art of the demonstration of today. So now you have understood that. The business model we are talking about is tire as a service. It's a pay-per-use business model. We have today 400,000 vehicles under contract across Europe and 40,000 additional one in North America. So it's the Michelin FE tires offer. We have been maybe the first to, we have been the first to launch that offer 50 years ago on the market with very manual process. It has been a very good offer for the group. In the past 50 years, we have developed our sales, and it works very well. And it's a market that grows a lot today. But it's a complex offer also, and we are managing to operate that offer a wide network of service provider, because you need people to check the status of the tire everywhere in Europe at the location of our customers. This is why we have more than 1 million manual inspection done per year. So it's a challenge business model. after 50 years, it's a challenge business model. Globally speaking, our customer says, okay, Michelin, you have your competitors, they all have an offer like that. I prefer to talk about the price per kilometer, because this is indicators that I understand. And you know technical details, this is your stuff. I don't want to know about it. So we should talk only about mileage and price per mileage. So we are at the end of the differentiation life cycle of the offer. Yes, we have a question. The tires are stays in the cost structure of the group, and we invoice the mileage. Yes, I'm going to explain that. Yeah, you're going to see it's quite complex. It's not like on every body car. It's more complex than that. So it's an offer that is at the end of its differentiation cycle with very complex operations, very complex operations. So I'm going to go in the details around the tire product life cycle just in the next slide. But we are managing thousands of people on the field, checking the tires in thousands of service provider garage. We have relationship with multiple network of service providers. We have contracts with all these companies. We are contracting with the customer. We are contracting with service providers. We are checking that the quality of the action is at the right level. It's very complex and heavy. So it's not a good cocktail. If I go into the detail of the product life cycle, for the product complexity part, you will understand where we have some levers to improve this business model from the sustainability point of view. Here in green, this is what we already do today, and I'm going to explain this for life cycle. It's not like on your car. It's not only being able to say, okay, your tire is dead, I'm going to put a new one. An heavy truck tire has 4 lives. First, you put it new, you use it. Then you regroove it. Regrooving is removing a strip of rubber to recreate the tread. So by doing that, we add 25% of additional kilometers on the same tire. Then you retread it. So you remove the tread in a plant, you put a new one, and then you go back on the vehicle. And then you regroove it again. To be able to do that, you have to check the wear, because it's not, as you can imagine, a flat wear. Sometimes it's conical. Sometimes it's on the center of the tread, not on the shoulders. So you have to swap the tire sometime on the wheel. So you just turn the tire on the wheel. Sometimes you take the tires from the left position to the right, from the right to the left. So you change the position of the tire on the vehicle so that mean value, your wear is flat, and then you can have those 4 lives. So many maintenance operations asking for many check operations. We do that because it has a sustainable impact like that already. You have here 2 indicators. We are able to regroove much more within this offer because we have this level of quality of checking 4 times better than the rest of the market on regrooving. The regrooving rate in the fleets that we operate. And we do 2 times better than the market on retrading, which has already a very good sustainable impact. What we can do to improve that is to go from 5 millimeters mean value remaining tread depth at end of life to less, to 1.6, 1 millimeter one day, because this is 1 millimeter in France. So we can remove the tire much closer to the real end of life, having, by doing that, less waste, a good impact on CO2 emissions, and we can also check the level of pressure to avoid breakdown, which has an effect on productivity, and also to ensure that we have the best level of falling resistance once again. And this is what we have done. So this is where I have the little video, because a good video is a lot better than the long explanation. Up. So there is just music. So this is the offers that we have launched end of last year. Yes, so I'm going to explain that. We have tire pressure monitoring systems and Michelin quick scan. And this is the center of the presentation, even if the major impact comes from the pressure, and I'm going to explain why. So this is what we do today. We are able to generate job list, detailed job list, predictive detailed job list for the next 60 days. We deliver that to our fleets. I'm going to let you just look at the video first. So go back to the presentation. Yes. So in terms of sustainability, so tire pressure monitoring systems attached on the wheel, you know that, you have all that, you all have that on your car. Okay, but it's not deployed in heavy truck transportation today. So we add that in the fleet, we monitor the pressure, we have the positive effect. Michelin Quick Scan is a technology developed by the group in the past 10 years. We have more than 15 patents on that system. It's a drive-over technology. You have seen it, you drive over it. And it's quite important because you divide the cost of the device of the system by the number of the vehicles using it. So in terms of cost per vehicle, cost per tire, it's nearly nothing. And in terms of CO2 emitted by the device when you produce it, divided by the number of tires using it, once again, nothing. We have discovered that, we knew it, but we have discovered that even in our business, we had huge room of improvement on this indicator of remaining tread depth when we remove the tire. We are able to decrease it by 1.3 millimeters, and it's like that. It's like that. We can go beyond that. It will require more change management. But it's really like that. Just because you have the information, you see the reality, you're able to plan it, you do it, you activate it. And it has an impact of -1% on fuel consumption. Or you could say, okay, 1%, it's not so much. You have to understand that in the cost structure of a fleet, the fuel consumption is a major part of the expense. 1% of this part is much more money than the total cost of all the tires of the fleet, yearly. So it has a huge impact. And you should consider also, to look at that number, that fleet transportation are not producing 50% of margin. It's much more something like 2-3% in the good years. You have another indicator, I'm going to jump into the slide, but 80% of breakdown due to leak of pressure are avoided. So tires are 2% of the cost structure, producing 30% of the issue on the highway. When you see a truck stopped on a highway because of any mechanical issue, 30% being the tire, this truck will bring no revenue to the fleet for the year. That's finished. Because it requires, in fact, to be repaired on the highway, and it has such a cost that the margin of this truck is 0 for the year. So it's a huge stake for the fleets. From 4-to-1 fleet check by service provider, what we do, and we are the best on the market by doing that, 4 check by year, manual check. When things go well, you see naturally 65 to 70% of the vehicle by doing it like that, because a truck is not made to stay at the location. So when you come, you do not have all the truck in front of you. So you have to call your customer saying, okay, I cannot commit on the compliance of this vehicle because you are not able to show it to me. So once again, very heavy process, not efficient, not very good for the customer. Here, in 3 weeks, you see 90% of the fleet. You avoid nobody. You improve the level of quality and the easiness of interaction with your customer. You cannot measure that. It has no value. It's just great. So we have changed totally the way we operate this business model just by putting IoT in the middle of the story. And it has created value for the customer. It has created value for the group because, as explained, the tires are in the cost structure of the group. And it creates value also for the service providers. So why do we do that? First, and this will be my conclusion, first because we do IoT and we merge IoT and we leverage IoT for sustainability for our kids. We are all on the same planet, and this is the first reason, frankly. But that's a very good news. IoT is about improving inefficient process. Improving inefficient process is creating productivity. Productivity is doing more faster with less. So it's profit. Doing with less is sustainability. And I go to the point that I explain to my team very often, saying the P of planet is the P of profit. This is exactly the same point. When you're working on sustainability, you're working on profit, and you're working on saving the planet. This is exactly the same thing. But it's not only that. IoT is not only about hardware, sensor, algorithms. For sure, when we started 10 years ago, we did that. We did electronic. I'm an electronic designer, engineer. So I hired electronic people. Then I hired people to design embedded software. I hired people to design data lakes, to design algorithms. We created big teams, and we designed this quick scan technology. And we thought in the first 3-4 years that it was a technical stake and a technical job, but in fact not. When you have thousands and thousands of people on the field and you tell to them, okay, you're gonna not do fleet check manually now. I want you to stay at home looking at a computer because I send you a job list and I don't want you to check that what the sensor says is good or not. I want you to operate what says the job list. With thousands of people in Europe, I can tell you this is huge in terms of change management. And in the next 5 years, we did just that. Another important thing is you cannot do IoT without thinking business model at any time. You need to think business, business, business. Because you are changing the equilibrium of your existing business. So you need to talk about business model all day long. And in fact, today, I'm driving technical team, but I'm talking about business with my technical team all day long. And last but not least, it's not about hardware, it's about insights, actionable insights. You have to work on being sure that what you produce in terms of information, you can turn it into something that improves a process. So you are not thinking about sensors, you are thinking about insights and data. That's my conclusion. Thank you. Maybe with the microphone.
Yeah, the microphone. And yeah. Thank you.
So this is like a B2B offering for now?
Yes, it's a B2B offer.
Do you have anything like this that you could propose to consumers? You know,
Yes,
for
we
example?
are. It's just a part of my activity. In this around tire R&D activity, we are working to deliver applications for any type of customers and consumers. The channel is not the same. When you want to touch a consumer that will pay €0 for a feature, you go through OEMs, and then you develop a business with OEMs. It can be also a business of leads. You can address networks of garage that have an interest to know a predictive way what tire should be changed on what vehicle in 1 month or 2 months, so that they can send you an email saying, hey, you should come to me, I'm going to change your tire, and I know your usage, I'm going to propose you a better tire for you. So we are talking about other channels. And in fact, we have various channels. We are working with people that are developing software layers in connected vehicles. We are working. We were at the CES. You can see a demo we did with BlackBerry, very probably on YouTube. We are based on a pure algorithm strategy. We are working in B2B with fleets of LCVs, of heavy commercial vehicle, as it is shown here. We are working with any type of customers, but depending on the business model and of the customer, the channel is not the same, and the way to go to the market is not the same, and the way to extract value is not the same also. So I know that my friends of marketing have looked at that, because the casing of an heavy truck tire has a value in itself. So this is the idea of the bottle. You could say, okay, you buy the tire, and then you give me back the casing after the first usage. I will retrade it, but by doing that, I give you money back, etc. So I know that my friends of marketing worked on that, but it's a pure tire business model. So this is not the place where I'm involved today. But we have no offer like that, as far as I know, today in the group. That okay?
2 questions. Very good. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we can start here. Yes, and then we will go to you, Marion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. I have a question, because you've started like a product company producing tires, and you went to the new business model, and it's impressive. And what I see at a lot of product companies is that it's quite controversial inside the company, this kind of transformation, because basically you want to sell more products, but at the same time you are kind of killing this business. What's your take on it? How did you make it?
Yes, this is my life that you just explained in the past 10 years. When we started 10 years ago, we were exactly in the trade-off that you are mentioning. Having business line, dedicated business line, asking to us to produce IoT to help them developing their sales. We started like that. We created in 2018 the services and solution business line, saying, okay, it has to be a business in itself, and then you must consider your business out of the tire business. And this is still something that I'm managing as an engineer and as a CTO today, because we still have the 2 targets. So I'm part of the SES Services and Solution business line, so I'm working every day in developing new services with subscription models, working on the revenue of SNS, Services and Solution. But in the same time, I have a part of the activity that is dedicated to create value through OEMs. To take that example, I was mentioning what we do with BlackBerry. And for sure, when we do that, we know that we have a loyalty effect between a customer that will buy a new car with Michelin tires, and when he retrofit his tire, he will take the same as the one he had at the beginning. So you have this loyalty effect, and we know that when we sell this algorithm to evaluate the wear status, we will create a good rebound to resell tires behind that. So we are managing those two business in parallel. It's clear now in the company, it has been said and understood by everybody because it's pushed also very strongly by our boss, that services and solution is not here to push the sales of tires. It can help, but this is not the mission. The mission is developing the revenue of services. And we have been very clear on the fact that we can use our sensor to improve the wear performance of our competitors also. It is clear, and in fact it has to be like that. You have to work in a standardized world when you want to develop sales. So you have to accept the fact that solution of others will work with your products and your solutions will work on the products of others. So this is what we do today, and it's clarified, but it has been a journey. You're right. That's okay?
And one more question.
Huh?
Yes, a question concerning the evolution of your model in the future with electrification of vehicles, because for pressure, I think it will not change, but for fuel economy, will you duplicate or do you have to invent another model for electric vehicles?
So the way to extract value will not be the same. You will still have the effect on rolling resistance, and it has a direct effect in terms of autonomy. You know, battery electric truck has not the same range of a thermic one. Not at all. It's more like something like 300 kilometers compared to 1,000. So it will change everything. It will change everything because first you will need to be able to you need to be able to put electricity in your battery. By doing that, you stop your truck, so you will have to see, you will have places so that the driver can stay safe somewhere, have a coffee, maybe sleep. So this network of truck park does not exist today. The network of charging station does not exist today. It will change everything on the transportation logistic chain. So we are in front of that, and those applications will have an effect on range and autonomy, and for sure it will have. It will be very interesting because in front of such a move, we know that every 10 kilometers or 50 kilometers that you will be able to earn will have a huge impact. And we already work on that. We have some companies within services and solutions, so sort of spin-off, working on helping small fleets, you know, the plumber fleet with 2 or 3 LCV, to switch to the electric, managing the battery, using a low rolling resistance tire. We are deploying, it's not quick scan, it's other technologies, algorithms, TPMS as well, to help them improve their range. And then we are able to tell them, okay, you should not take that road to go from point A to point B because you were in thermic, you could do that. Now you're going to do that, take this road, etc., etc. We're charging here because it's less costly. So we are helping a lot our fleets, our customers to do that.
Maybe you will collect not the same data, but maybe other data, but you will, the metrics will not be the same and you will analyze them differently.
Exactly. So yes, it's new business model for sure. But the mechanisms at the basis will be the same.
Okay, and I think we have one more question. Yes, Corinne, or is it good for you, Marion? Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Is tire service your ultimate model? Or do you see further improvement, for example, through pay-per-outcome model? Pay-per-outcome, pay-per-O, rather than pay-per-you.
We are working on the next evolution, in which we are combining our telematic-based business with those solutions. This pay-per-use business model is as the tire in the tire is in the middle of the offer. In fact, we have another business which is fleet management powered by telematic. We are collecting usage data, and we help in their everyday life, the companies, the fleets, to improve their operations, to select the right road, to train their drivers so that they drive safely and a way that, in fact, we are deploying eco-driving, so a way that save CO2 emissions and fuel. We have plenty of features like that in this fleet management activity. We will combine both, and this is what, and we have launched it, and it's not we do. We have launched it end of last year. It's called Michelin Connected Mobility. This is a new offer. And then when you are a fleet now, you have a monitoring of your usage, you have a monitoring of your tire, and we are combining the data that we are collecting, comparing the driving style to the effect in terms of fuel, to the effect in terms of evolution of wear, checking all that, monitoring all that live, organizing the whole maintenance planning, and saying to the customer, okay, now you have all the levers in front of you to improve your business, and we can turn each insight that we show you into action, but in a mode where you decide what you want to activate, then we train the driver if necessary, then we deploy a new techno if necessary, but you have all the insights in front of you, and we help you acting on your business where you want to improve it. And very often, it's once again, it has an effect in terms of sustainability, because we are working on productivity, and this is why I was explaining that productivity is sustainability. In fact, this is exactly the same thing. You improve the level of load in your trailer, you decrease the level of CO2 by freight, by tons of freight. It is direct. So it has an effect on sustainability, it has an effect in terms of cost, it has an effect in terms of productivity, in terms of safety. This is what we do. I'm not sure I answer, but this is what we have in the pipe and what we do. Is that okay?
One last question. I was wondering how you see the Teslas of this world, because they also have a very data-driven business model. So are they a natural ecosystem partner? Are they just another customer? Are they frenemies?
They are a very good customer.
And okay, and then to the point of ecosystem partners, I was wondering, in the past, for instance, Michelin had some challenges with ecosystems. When I think about the Pax product, for instance, and so how challenging was it to build an ecosystem specifically for IoT and the sensors? Where were the barriers? So 2 questions actually.
Yeah,
in one.
it's less. My experience is that with Tesla, it's maybe less a question of ecosystems than with others, because Tesla is managing their business, centralizing all what is key for them, and they are the first developing software-defined vehicle, I would say, and they keep their hand on each part of their vehicle. So we have a direct interaction with them. I could have talked about this story today. We are selling to them connected tire with sensors that just give, I say just, but give the identity of the tire to the vehicle so that the vehicle can adapt its behavior to the tires that are mounted. So it's a very direct interaction, and it's it's an American company, very pragmatic. They wanted to develop their own connected tire. We called them saying, okay, we want to sell you our connected tire. They said no. We said, okay, yes, but we want to sell our connected tire. What should we do to sell our connected tire to you? Oh, it's very easy. You have to go faster and cheaper than us. Yes. And we did it in 2 years. So we sell our connected tires to Tesla today. With others, it's not like that. It's through ecosystem. It's through BlackBerry. It's through Qualcomm. It's through companies like that are in the middle of the design of new connected vehicles that you will see in the next years. So it's more an ecosystemic approach. I'm not sure I've answered to the 2 questions.
That was exactly the answer to
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
And so we have now Zoya with us, and this is a book from one of my colleagues about innovation. So all of you you receive this book. Thank you. Yeah, we were talking a lot about innovation, so thanks. And now with Zoya, yeah, please. final presentation about creating sustainable value for companies and customers with IoT. So in the meantime, let me say to the students who are there, I really would like to write some cases with what we have seen this morning, and I'm sure that we can have some cases for other students. So if some students want to help me, it will be a pleasure to have you in the team, as well as we will write a white paper about this morning based on the presentation, but also maybe some other insights, conclusion from other reports. So once again, if you're interested to work with me during the next 2 months or before June on this point, come and see me, and we will do it together, and we'll see how we'll do it. Thanks. Thank you very much, Zoya. I give you the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here. Really happy to be here today, and appreciate that you are taking the time just before lunch to listen to my presentation about creating sustainable value with IoT. A few words about myself. I work for Schneider Electric since 1 year. I'm from St. Petersburg. I live in Switzerland, and I'm specialized in software and software solutions since over 20 years. So anything about cloud, anything about AI, data, this is what I do. I have worked in quite some industries, mostly manufacturing and process industries, but also pure software industries and buildings and automotive, so quite a lot on that. And in fact, I would like to start my presentation with a quick question to you. How many of you know the company I'm representing here today? How many of you have heard about it? Okay, everybody, more or less. That's really great. Well, then little repetition for most of you. I'll start with a little video. And previously, when we tested it, it was really loud. So I hope now it will be good. Just a couple of minutes of it.
The world is full of people telling you who to believe they are. Well, we thought we'd tell you who we're not. Let's start here. We're not in shipping. We don't make lifts. Seriously, no lifts. We do this. We're good at this. And we make all of these. And even though you'll find us here and here, we don't make energy. We make you save it. And you'll be saving the environment too. Are we an internet company? Well, we connect and power just about everything around you, helping machines talk to each other and to you, making your world more personal. We're seeking out the big questions and answering them honestly. Like, how can we make the most of our energy and resources? Or can we make access to energy and digital basic human rights? We're real people, employees, developers, partners, investors, and inventors, all passionate about doing what's right. We're open. Humans of all sorts from all over, learning from each other and about each other. We're not here to save the world. It'll go on with or without us. We're here to help power and connect what you do every day, to ensure life is on everywhere, for everyone at every moment.
Okay, thank you. So now you know we definitely don't do lifts, but you already knew it before. And yes, our purpose is to empower all and make the most of our energy and resources for everyone. And we put our mission to be their partner for sustainability and efficiency. And as you have heard from the video, we are calling it Life is On. I would like to spend a couple of minutes showing you some data points about our company. So we are global leader in energy management and industrial automation. We have 2 big businesses. One is energy management, focusing on energy transition, and another one is industrial automation, focusing on efficiency. And obviously, all of it is powered by software, and I will get to it a bit later. We are about 34 billion euro revenue company. We have over 135,000 employees all over the world. And we are quite global. We are represented in 100 countries. And yes, very well balanced portfolio. So we serve all kinds of segments as well. And because of that, the way our business is structured, we believe to be quite uniquely positioned to talk about sustainability. We have started this journey about 10 years ago, or actually longer than that, quite substantially before many other companies out there and our customers. And we really believe that we are experiencing a turning point in the energy transition as of today. So we see there is a lot going on in electrification, obviously for decarbonization, and we see really a lot going on in digitalization for efficiency. And this change is happening at scale, driven by the digital disruption and, of course, by the climate crisis that we have today, and my previous presenters already spoke about it. So if you consider and if you look at global carbon emissions, you will see that about 80% of global carbon emissions come from production and consumption of energy. So it's really a lot. And if you start looking at these numbers, you actually also very quickly see that we waste about 60% of the energy today. So it means that if we really want to talk about this 1.5-degree pathway that we all want to achieve for carbon neutrality, we will need to basically cut our emissions already by the end of this decade, which is quite soon. And moreover, we will need to actually reduce carbon emissions 3 times faster than any commitments that we have as of today. So when you look at it, you, I think, quickly understand that this kind of decarbonization is actually an energy challenge, so energy efficiency challenge. And this is where IoT comes into play. During the COVID, it accelerated really a lot, so there have been a lot of talks about it, but we see a tremendous acceleration in number of devices. So for example, just some data, statistic prognosing that it will be 6 times more IoT devices by end of this decade, and the internet traffic will grow 140% times more by 2020, by 2040, but probably even faster than that. And so it means we are really talking about next level of IoT. So we are not talking anymore about connecting people to machines and connecting the people, but we're really talking about connecting machines to machines, buildings to buildings, and making this kind of ecosystem more smart and more efficient. And yeah, how do you do it? At Schneider Electric, we have developed one controls and one IoT platform, which is basically there to connect everything from bottom to the top. So vertical connection from smart connected products to edge control to apps, analytics, and software, and to some pretty new business models that I will talk about a bit later today. And if you really want to do it, you have to do it holistically. So this is why we speak about these 4 pillars, and I would like to briefly present them to you as well. It's first, electrifying the operations, so making operations electrified. And by the way, I think you have heard some of this already today from other presenters, so it's all the same message. The second one is reducing the energy use, so basically reducing the consumption of the same operations, making them more efficient. The third one is replacing energy sources with more sustainable, with more renewable energy sources. And the last but not least, really important pillar is that you have to address all of it holistically. You cannot do it alone as your company. You need to go to your customers and even more to your suppliers. So you have to address the entire value chain. You have to engage with the entire value chain. So more or less in very short, this is the theoretical part of my presentation, and I would like to take a look at about 3 cases with you that I brought together with me to demonstrate how do we actually do it with our customers. So first one is a customer from Barcelona, Spain, Roca. You probably know them very well. They make really beautiful products, and it's quite large group. So there are over 20,000 employees. They have about 76 factories, and they're in 170 countries. So they're all over the world. It's very complex. And Roca used our sustainability consultants to help them develop a global sustainability policy for the group. We also use some of our solutions, obviously, such as resource advisors, such as Aviva Data Hub, to help them optimize their operations. And the result of it is that Rocco was able to reduce carbon emissions by 26% already in 2021. And they are on a goal to be about 50% efficiency at 2030, and their target is to be net zero by 2045. And why I really like this example is because it clearly demonstrates that you can pursue sustainability goals, and at the same time you actually need to keep your business in mind, just like you just mentioned in the previous presentation, because what they have been pursuing here is improving of efficiency of factory operations, reducing the maintenance costs, and all this while achieving the sustainability targets and becoming more sustainable. I would like to go to another example, which is from Granska Toplana, which is another beautiful place. It's this time in Croatia, and I wanted to bring it to here because here we also use some artificial intelligence, of course, to help do it. So basically, Granska Toplana is a district heating utility. They are heating about 8,000 citizens. So they're providing the energy, heat energy for 8,000 citizens. And here what we have done is to help implement AI-based load balancing algorithms which help predict the heat demand and the consumption of the heating in the upcoming hours, and it of course allows to optimize the operations at the end. So in this case, speaking it plain, what they're able to do now is to know when to start and stop heating, and obviously it saves a lot of energy, but it also helps to minimize usage of the equipment, so all the boilers, energy storage, they're used better and more efficient way, and so it also reduces the maintenance costs and operation costs the company has. And last example I wanted to bring up today is from the buildings area, and I will talk about it a bit longer probably. It's Intensity, it's from Schneider Electric, and I really like this example because it clearly demonstrates the idea of eating your own dog food by Schneider Electric. So this is our own building, it's carbon neutral building, it's the most efficient building in our fleet. Obviously it's new, and it's smart city enabled. It means that this building will be able to communicate with other smart buildings in the neighborhood and to be able to exchange information such as, okay, the prices of the grid are going up. For example, there is a very high demand in the grid. So the building can then decide to opt out of the consumption and start consuming more of own renewable energy, or start saving more of it, or even reduce the consumption in favor of other neighboring buildings. So this kind of buildings we will see more and more. I mean, I believe you spoke about that how much potential there still is, and how big of fleet of building is not yet modern. And obviously one can digitalize all the buildings as well, but on the other hand, we will also see more and more of such new buildings which are completely digitalized and smart. And what I also like a lot about this example is that it has about 60,000 data points that we are collecting to represent the full scope digital twin of this building. And this information is being collected about every 10 minutes. And I could not show you the name of a customer, but I would like to bring you one step further what you can do with this kind of information. Because until now we spoke about quite classical IoT examples, right? Reducing, basically optimizing efficiency, reducing maintenance costs, but you can also go one step further and talk about new business model, which is you don't only sell software solutions, you don't only sell the services, but you start also to monetize data, and data is a product. So imagine if you have 60,000 data points or less or more, you can think, what else can you do with this data beyond the efficiency itself? And there are some new use cases which we are doing with some of the customers, such as involving third-party ecosystem, for example, certification authorities for sustainability, such as LEED certification in US. So what you can do is you send data required for this kind of certification absolutely automatically through an open API from, in this case, our EcoStruxure system to the authority. They issue the certificate. Customer gets each and every building certified automatically, something that took hours of manual labor before. And customer is saving time, they get their certification. We are monetizing this API and we are monetizing this data as a product. Our certification authority is obviously also having less work, so it creates this very interesting new ecosystems based on open data from the systems which are powered by IoT, and this ultimate goal to improve sustainability but also generate business value for everybody in this case. So I hope it kind of gives you a glimpse of what is possible nowadays and what are the modern solutions that we can provide. And so on this note, I would like also to wrap up my presentation, but like make sure there are two key messages out of it that I would like you to take with you. One is, in major transformation, the way we are all working is changing a lot. And it's not just for us, companies like Schneider Electric, it's also for our customers and all of you, I guess. And I do think, or we do think, it brings us enormous opportunities to also transform and pivot the revenue, create new revenue streams, new business models, where everybody participates in this kind of value creation. So it's not anymore the transactional business, we sell something, but there is the whole ecosystem with your customer, with third parties to create this value. And this is the key message of my presentation. And last but not least, before we open for questions, I would like to mention that at Schneider we really value talent, we believe in talent, so if anybody of you would like to learn more about our company, me and my colleagues are here today during lunch and after, so please just pass by and we would be very happy to talk to you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this final slide, because if you have students, but the others also, of course, if you have any question about whatever you want about Schneider Electric, we have Mustafa, we have Michael who are there. You have also, of course, Zoya, if you have a specific question, do not hesitate during the buffet lunch. Any question about Schneider Electric? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for sharing this interesting journey. Probably similar to what Michelin has presented, it's something that your competitors are also engaging in. How would you describe the Schneider Electric way to that transformation? Is it more about the value proposition to the customers? Is it more about the ecosystem you're building? Is it more about your internal operations? What is specific to Schneider when compared with the usual suspects of your industry?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think like maybe first differentiate is that we have started to talk about sustainability and put it into our solutions and the way we operate quite before it became mandatory or a topic everybody was discussing. So I think it helps us also a lot because we already passed some transition path from the beginning to becoming quite mature in our own solutions, in our own platform, in our policies, in upskilling our talent or upskilling our people as well on this topic. So of course there is a lot of educational work that we have done internally to internalize this kind of process or topics. And then speaking about business and our solutions, so we have quite a unique portfolio, and I don't know if I can say so, we are quite lucky to have been from the beginning on uniquely positioned and strong in energy management topics. And it happens so, I mean, obviously also driven by this early sustainability onboarding, that we are addressing the main industries which are relevant for sustainability from the energy point of view, such as data centers, buildings, lighting, energy consumption and generation, grid, and solutions like that. And we have quite broad portfolio of products that interconnect throughout these industries. But as mentioned, the part that we are lucky in is we also have industrial automation solutions in our portfolio. Because nowadays, if you talk about manufacturing side, you have buildings where you have grid connection, you have renewable energy, you may have your own data center. And our unique value proposition, or the one we believe is stand out, is we have this kind of transversal portfolio powered by interconnected EcoStruxure platform, which is also open to ecosystem of partners, because we believe we cannot do it alone. So we have to have ecosystem of partners, and our partners are also our customers partially. I don't know if it answers your question, but it was a bit long answer, sorry.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that Roca aims to be carbon neutral by 2040. I was wondering, how do you think that would happen? And do you really think that a company can be carbon neutral? Thank you.
That's a very good question. I think the devil is in detail. Of course, one needs to discuss how one measures is, and is it just about branding and public portrayal, or is one really truly believing into this internally and wants to, let's say, make honest measurements, honest KPI measurements, honest plan on how to achieve it. So I cannot speak on behalf of everyone. Of course, we take it very seriously, so we are participating in all kinds of standardization activities, governments, bodies. We make sure that whatever we are reporting ourselves and also for our customers is transparent and can be validated, so that we don't have this kind of greenwashing, which is popular nowadays. But yes, it's, I think it's a very difficult question, of course. What is the company priority? Do they really truly want to transform and make sure that there is enough for everybody on the planet, also after us, or do we just want to follow the policies just because one has to comply? So there is, yeah, it's hard to answer in this sense. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, so a few words for the conclusion. So thank you very much, of course, to our guest speakers for this morning. I think that we have had a lot of insights, ideas, and I hope ideas to be implemented for the students in your dissertations and for the others, the professionals, maybe in your daily task and your next innovation. So thank you for our guest speakers. Thank you to you, the audience who were there, and for your questions. It was really, really interesting. And we had this 10 minutes for each presentation with an interaction, which was really, really good. So if you still have some question, and if you still want to discuss with our guest speakers, we have, remember, the buffet lunch where you are all invited, and it will be the opportunity for us, for everyone to network and to go in the networking. And as I said also before, I really would like to write and to publish a white paper and some cases from this morning. So if you are interested, please come and see me and we can work together. It will be, of course, a pleasure if you can join the IoT Chair activities. And finally, of course, I would like to say a big thank you to my partners, Schneider Electric, of course, and to my team, Anne, Fatima, who is really, really new, and Sandrine, who is not there, but all the people who were there and help us to organize and prepare this event. Thank you very much, and see you soon at the buffet. Thanks a lot. Do we have a picture all together, so with the guest speakers? Yeah, if we can have just a picture together, I don't know.